Hi, my name is Al Pettipaw from Springfield College, and it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Dan Gould. Dan is the Bank of America Professor of Excellence from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and Dan is probably the world's leading expert in the delivery of mental skills training programs to athletes. We've asked Dan to join us today to show us how to deliver these kind of services to a mixed group of athletes. And let me begin by introducing Dan.
Hi, Al. It's great to be here.
Right. Dan, I guess my first question would be, why do we need mental skills workshops, training programs, etc. for athletes?
Yeah, I think what we've discovered over the last 3 years through our research with coaches is that we've learned an awful lot about mental skills training, about sports psychology. Right. But what we haven't mastered all the time is how to translate that information into practice. And when we interviewed coaches and surveyed coaches, we found out that we need to make sports psychology information more user-friendly. So we've been working the last couple of years to develop drills and activities that can help translate that information we've learned into practice.
Yeah. So in joining us today, what are you hoping to show us today?
What I'm hoping is to show a series of drills that we've worked with athletes that emphasize a certain mental skill that's associated with performance success. But also these drills have the characteristics that coaches tell us you need for them to be effective. They're fun. They engage the athlete's attention. They make these mental concepts concrete. And whenever possible, we also try to get them so they can be integrated into actual practice and competitive situations later, so we maximize the effectiveness.
Great. So where do we begin?
I think we start with the first drill on performance profiling.
Great.
Okay, well, hi everybody. As was just said, my name is Dan Gould. I'm glad to be here at your university today. I'm even more happy that we have representatives from the different sports you have on campus. I'm a mental training coach. Basically, like a strength training coach helps you get stronger in the weight room. We're going to do some exercises to help you get stronger in the head. And we're going to start right away, and we're going to learn from each other in this first exercise. You know, I know your coaches have probably done this, at least mine did over the years, that everybody wants to be successful. We all want to have a winning season or go to the regionals or whatever it is. But then sometimes we don't talk too much about how to get there. We just say we want to be successful and do it. So this first exercise, we're going to learn from each other, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to be successful in athletics. And simply what we're going to do is just have a little discussion here on what it takes to be great, what it takes to be a champion in your sport at your level. So we have different sports represented, so it might differ a little bit. But if you think of across the different athletes you know, in your level of competition, the really good one, the consistent performer, they're there, or even the teams that are consistent, what are some of the mental characteristics of the teams? What are some of the things that they think about? Or if you saw them that, you know, sports commentators would talk about that athlete. So think about that a minute. What does it take to be really great in your sport mentally? And then we'll kind of share them with each other here. Okay, we'll start off with one, focus. All right, that's pretty good. So focus. Try to. Okay, what's focus? We hear our coaches say it all the time. Any guesses? What's focus? Yeah, you're concentrating on something, you're attending to certain things you need to, and not getting distracted with other things. So we focus on certain things to get done. So focus is a real important one to being successful in almost every sport we do. What's another one? Okay, yeah, a real good one, deal with pressure. All right, so we've got 7 or 8 here, very good skills that we'll focus on. That's a pretty good list for us, so we'll start with this list. All right, we can come back later and add things to it. So it's not set in concrete, it's not the perfect list, but it's a good working part for us. What we're going to do next, we'll look at this list. We got focus, deal with pressure again, good communication, team cohesion, mental toughness, motivation, and mental prep. So we've got this list. That's what we think it takes to be a really good athlete. Okay, one final look. Anything else we forgot that goes with that? Any others? I think we've got a pretty good list going there. Okay, let's work with that. What we're going to do next is we've got this list for us. Now what we're going to do is kind of do an assessment and see how we do relative to this list. Okay, so I'm going to rip this off for a second. And I have something we call a mental skills profile. And what we're going to do, I'm going to actually give you your own copies of this. Good, everybody's got one then? And what we're simply going to do, this is just like almost looks like a target area for archery or something like that. On the outside of this, like pie or pizza, whatever we want to think about it as, we're going to write the mental skills that we had listed here. All right? So we'll start maybe on this piece, we'll put focus. All right? And then what was our next one? Deal with pressure. And you do this on yours as I'm doing it. So we'll deal with pressure. What was our third one? Good communication. Motivation. And our mental preparation. And we've got some pieces that aren't filled in yet, and that's okay, because we may think of some things as time goes on. You know, we only spent 5 minutes thinking about it today. There might be some other things that we come up with. Now, what we're going to do here, we have these listed around the outside of the circle, and we're going to view the center of the circle, the dot right in the middle, as 0. The first line is out is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way out to the outermost ring, which is 10. All right? 0 means you have none of this attribute. 10 means you really got it down. For example, let's say when I was an athlete, motivation, I was a hard worker. I was really motivated. I was a 9 or 10. All right? So what I do is under motivation, I kind of color that in all the way out to 9. All right? To the second to the last ring. But maybe dealing with pressure I struggled with more. Maybe because I was so motivated, I wanted it so bad, when I got in the big game or the big event, I worried. So maybe I was a 3 on that, so 1, 2, 3. So dealing with pressure, I'd come out to the third ring. So on yours, what I want you to do is you've written these in. I want you to rate yourself from 0, meaning you don't have that attribute at all, to 10, meaning you got it down really good. Now, again, this is your personal opinion on this, and it's not a time to be, you know, like, oh, I don't want to say I have a lot of motivation because what would people think? Be really totally honest with yourself here. If you're highly motivated, put it. If you don't deal with pressure, and put that lower if that's the case. So fill that out, everybody here, on a personal level for yourself. So now what you have is you have an individual profile for yourself. That is like an individual report card telling yourself, here's the things that we agreed that a champion needs to have to be a really mentally, you know, good athlete. All right? Now, how do I score on these different attributes? Mental prep, motivation, focus, dealing with pressure. And if you look at your charts there, which ones are you pretty high in? I'll just ask for some examples. If somebody give me one you're pretty high in, an attribute you think you're pretty good at. Okay, communication. Mental toughness. Okay, mentally tough, communication. Mental toughness. Okay, good. So we have some attributes we're pretty good at. All right, we're mentally tough, we're pretty good communicators. Now, which ones did you score lower in? Somebody willing to share which one you might not feel as good about? Andy? Okay, dealing with pressure. How did you score on motivation, Andy? About a 5, okay. So sometimes what we find is people that are really high on motivation, sometimes the pressure is harder to deal with because you care so much. All right, so dealing with pressure for Andy. Andy.
Mental preparation.
Okay, mental preparation is one. Do you not mentally prepare enough? Are you inconsistent? What is it?
I just go out on the field. I don't think about it prior to the game. I don't go through any kind of imagery. I just go play.
Okay, she just goes and does it. And we'll come back to that and maybe work on it. Maybe that's an area she wants to improve.
Good communication.
Okay, good communications, one that you want to improve on.
Yeah.
Okay? Good. Well, that gives us a pretty good idea of what we might be wanting to work on as the season progresses here mentally. Just like in your different sports, you might pick something technically to work on. In the weight room, you might pick a particular area to focus on. Maybe you had an injury and you need to overcome and strengthen an area. So we're going to just pick a couple goals mentally based on our profile. The other thing we're going to do is it's preseason right now. We have this profile or report card. 4 weeks from now, we'll come back and fill another one out and see if we made improvements. And at the end of the season, it's a good way for us to see our mental skills, at least our ratings, and how we can work on them and improve them. The good news is everybody had some strengths. You know, nobody had a completely empty chart. So we're working with some good things. That's why you're college athletes. But the secret is if we're going to get better, we want to be really successful, we got to be working on some things. Good. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Great. Let's get going and go to practice. We'll do the next one in a little bit. Okay. The last exercise we did, if you recall, we talked about what it takes to be a really good athlete, to be a really good top performer. And we came up with a list, and I've just recopied this list here. And it dealt with, if you recall, what it takes mentally to be really good. Focus, deal with the pressure, be a good communicator, both with your coach and your teammates, mental prep, mental toughness, team cohesion or togetherness, and the ability to set goals. The problem with this is really easy for us to sit in a nice group and talk about it. And then as the season goes on, we get hectic with school, we get hectic with our social life, practices, games, late road trips. And sometimes we forget about these. And this next exercise is going to help us maybe realize that and then realize maybe what we can do about it. It's going to be more of an active exercise. So what I'm going to have you do here is get up and form a circle. And I'll be part of the circle. We'll make it like where we do the jump ball in basketball. We'll make the circle about that size. So let me start right here, and we'll just kind of form this circle. And again, I'm part of it. So maybe move in a little here. And I think that should work pretty well. A little out there. Okay. Now, all we're going to do in this exercise is I've got a little monkey here. And all I'm going to do is throw this monkey to somebody. I'll throw it maybe to Andy. And I'll say his name, and I'll say Andy, and I'll throw it to him, he'll catch it. He'll then throw it to somebody else in the circle, maybe call their name, and throw that to another person in the circle, and then that person will throw it to someone who hasn't received it yet. So we set up a pattern. All right, so we're just going to set up a pattern of throwing it. So Andy. Okay, I need to get it last. So we'll just repeat that. So Kirsten needs to throw it to someone else, and then I get it last. Okay? Andy.
Eric.
Good, we got that order, okay? So now we'll just try to make it a little quicker. See if we can go quicker. Remember the order. Okay, ready? Oh, keep going. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to time these, right, to see if we can go a little quicker. Now, we'll start in 5 seconds and see how quick we can go. And if I drop it at the end, it's probably because I'm looking at my watch, but that will count. Ready? Go. Okay, that was about 7 seconds. Let's see if we can beat 7 seconds. Everybody ready? Okay, keep your distances like you had in the beginning. Ready, Andy? Okay, that was better. That was about 6. Okay, let's try one more. Ready? Okay, that one was about 9. How come it was 9? What happened?
Panicked because we wanted to beat our time.
We panicked, but what happened to the monk when the monkey or the object came towards you? Where was it?
Up here.
Okay, so the throw wasn't as good. Right, so we had a mistake in throwing. Okay, maybe you panicked a little too. Okay, so we're going to make some mistakes just like in sports. Okay, let's try one more. Ready? Couple seconds. Go. Okay, that one is about 6. So 5, 6 is about the best we've done. Now, okay, we improved over that. Okay, the first one we were really slow. I didn't time it, but we were probably 12 or 13. How come we improved? What do we do to improve? Okay, we concentrated. All right, first time you just, Andy kind of threw it, and okay, nice, threw it over here. Kirsten, she throws it over. So we concentrated. What else can you do to improve? What else did you do to improve? Anything else? Concentrate?
Kind of got ready for it. Like you knew it was coming, what we were going to do, so you didn't know.
Okay, you got ready. Mental preparation. You got a little ready for it. Even though this is a little silly activity, you took some time to get ready. Okay, and we did that. Okay, and we also need to communicate. Like, oh, that one was high. Okay, so we communicate. Now, we're going to kind of make this a little different now. What we're going to do is see how many of these we can keep going. Okay, and we're going to start with the blue monkey, which actually, on the bottom of all these little monkeys, or these little objects that I have one of our components of what it takes to be great written on it. Like this one has team togetherness or cohesion. So we've been throwing cohesion around. So I'll start that, and then we'll start another one. We'll see how we can balance all these components. Everybody understand what we're going to do? Same order. I always get it last. Okay? And I need to kind of get my other materials just close to me here.
Are we timing these?
We're not going to time right now. We're just going to see how we can balance them. Okay? Ready? Let's see. Who do I go to first? Andy. Thanks. Okay, good communication. Ready? Okay. What happened when we increased the numbers? Well, we lost a little focus. What happened to the task itself? It got a lot more difficult. It was real easy to throw team cohesion around. And then all of a sudden another one comes, and the fish, what's the fish? The fish is good communication. That got dropped right away. All right? And we got a whole bunch of these we're going to try to go. So we're going to really need to focus to be able to do this, because we have all these components we want to develop. Okay, ready?
Oh, Erica.
There.
Oh,
Andy?
Erica. Erica.
Okay, let's try it once more, okay? Here we go. Ready?
Oh, Erica. Oh, keep going. Oh!
Keep going.
Erica. Erica. Erica.
Okay. What happened on that one?
Lost focus when I hit.
Okay, we lost focus because a couple hit it.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple hit because that's kind of a strategy thing. Sometimes we need to go high, somebody else needs to go low. What happened at the end, Andy? I was just pitching them. There were too many coming too fast. Right, Nat, kind of bring it in and sit down like we were at the front end. All right, Now that was kind of a fun activity. We got to throw some things around. What did we learn from it? Okay, we got we already identified these 8 mental things we want to work on. But how did we get better from the front end to the back end? How did we deal with it when the task got more difficult? What did we do? What were some of the things that you identified? Mickey? Okay, focus and concentration. One of our skills to be a better performer. That was mentioned 2 or 3 times. We focused more. We concentrated more. What else did we do? Yeah, excellent. We communicated both verbally and non-verbally. Okay, what else did we do? Great. We didn't identify that when we were doing it, but we set a goal. We kind of tried to increase the times. And when we set a goal, what did you do? What did that make you do?
It made us do all of those things. It made us focus and let us communicate.
Okay. So the goal kind of made it a little more important, so we focused more. All right. What happened at the end, Andy, when I was just throwing them so fast? Kind of fell apart. Is there anything you could have done physically to catch when I was throwing them that fast? Okay, really important point. Not really no was his answer. Sometimes we want it all. We want to do everything. Part of being a really successful performer, however, is prioritizing. So when we look at all these mental skills, you probably need them all to be a top performer. But you can't work on them all simultaneously. You'll be just like Andy was when I purposely was overloading him. There was too much coming for him to handle. So what he would need to do is prioritize. Which are the most important ones to focus on now? And that's something we need to do to be really good athletes. Prioritize those type of things. So what I want you to remember from this exercise is, yeah, we're focusing on these. For these to really work, we got to bring it into practice. We got to bring it into the gym, into the pool, onto the track. Secondly, we may have to prioritize sometime. We can't work on everything, so we might work on one this week. Doesn't mean we ignore the others, but it's not a primary focus. And to work on any of these as well as our athletic performance, we need to focus, we need to communicate, we need to do a lot of these skills and be aware of them. I think the final point I'd just like to make on this is being good. We said that everybody wants to be good, everybody wants to win, but not everybody's willing to pay the price to win. And what we're doing here in these exercises is we've identified what it takes to win mentally. Now we need to pay the price, be realistic, and work on certain components. Remember to use them in practice so we can get better and slowly improve as we go. Great exercise. Thanks. Okay, we've talked some about focus, about motivation. We've talked about confidence and the importance of needing all those to be really prepared to play well and to execute well and turn all your hard work into practice into good performances. We're going to do a fun activity today to get us to maybe work on how to stay on a positive, productive tone when you're struggling, maybe when things go wrong. Because we all kind of have sometime or another a bad day. Shots don't drop, we don't, for a swimmer the water doesn't feel fast, I don't execute very well, and it's pretty hard not to have some negative self-thoughts, negative self-statements. So the way we're going to start this exercise is I'm going to have everybody, give everybody a 3x5 card here and a pencil, and I'm going to ask you, while I'm passing that out, to think about your sport and your situation, a place where you get negative pretty easy. Like maybe it's missing a shot or striking out in softball or baseball, and you get down on yourself. And I want you to kind of just describe the self-statement you make to yourself. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it again. That type of thing. So write out a self-statement for me that you get into that's real, that's negative. Now, if you're using some curse words, sometimes in a formal meeting like this, you don't want to mention them. So you can just put OXXX, and then you don't have to say it. But what's really important with this is for this to work, we need what you actually say to yourself on the field, on the court, in the gym, when you're in that kind of situation and it's not going well. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a you know, we got some of the negative statements. Let me read some. I'll just kind of mix them up a little. Here we go again. So something went wrong with this person, and here we go again. We probably all kind of see head shaking. We've all been there. Missing an open shot, you think, you know, I suck. You know, that's probably one that everybody, you know, a lot of athletes say, oh, I suck, this stinks, type of deal. Again, something occurs, I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. That's a pretty good one. Damn, why didn't I take it sooner and faster? Something tells me damn's probably not the word this person uses, but that type of word. Here's somebody that just has X, 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 X. It's an easy skill. Okay, here's a version of one we already had. I totally suck. Okay? So now the important is these are real. These came from people in the group here, and that occurs in sports. Sports is not easy. Mistakes are part of the game. And part of being a really good champion is keeping your motivation up, staying positive in the face of all this frustration and mistakes, trying to get better. And I don't want to sit here and make it sound like, oh, just be positive, everything will be great. It's a fight. You got to fight through those negative situations and stay positive and productive. But I mean, it's not going to be a perfect day. You just have to fight through them and kind of stay in a good place. Now, we're going to kind of practice what we call reframing. Maybe some of these negative statements that you might experience in practice and make them more positive. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make a little game out of it to make this a little more fun. And we're just going to count off by threes, okay? And starting here.
1,
3.
Okay, so we only have 1 3. So the 3 is going to be with me. Aaron's going to be a judge. So come on up here, Aaron. We'll be the judge. We're going to, the ones, where's our ones? Okay, our 2 ones get together, you're a team, and our 2 twos are another team. So we got to have team 1 and team 2. Okay, we're going to have a little contest here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one of these negative self-statements that was generated by the group. I'll give it to you, Aaron and I will give it to you at the same time. You both have the same one. I'll read it, and you're going to have 30 seconds to reframe that to be more productive and positive. Okay, the secret of this whole thing, however, we want to reframe it to be, and that's what we're going to be judging. It's got to be more productive and positive. But it has to be short, and especially it has to be realistic. So if you don't think the athletes you know here at the university would ever use it, they're going to get marked down. All right, so we want these to be positive, productive, you know, short and sweet, but also realistic. And we're going to give them, they'll have 30 seconds, and we're going to hold them right to it. Then when the 30 seconds is up, we'll ask one team to give us their response to the reframed negative statement, and then the next team, and then we're going to judge them.
All right.
Okay? Okay, ready to go. Our first one, both teams ready. Here we go, you got 30 seconds. I totally suck. Okay, time's up. Team number 2. Okay, I totally suck. Response. We'll get it next time, okay? Judge, make note of that, what you thought of it. He's going to rate it from 1 to 10, with 10 being good. Hey, no extra work here in this team. Okay, I totally suck. Your response. It's over, we'll get the next one. Okay. All right, well, you get to go first next time. Our expert judge is going to do the scoring here. And then I'll write it down. Okay, team 1, I totally suck. Your response was? It's over, we'll get the next one. A 5. Why did you give them a 5?
Because basically they just copied them.
Okay,
we heard them kind of, you know, talking over there.
So you marked them down for going outside the rules, okay? I totally suck. Team 2, what was your response? I'll get it next time, very similar. I got an 8.
They seemed pretty sincere about that, so.
So you thought...
Yeah, and I thought that was a good one. And I think actually if they would have stuck with it, I would have probably given them an 8 anyway.
Okay.
So.
Tough judge. Okay. Okay, our next one, and this team will get to go first this time. Our next one, we'll give you about 30 seconds. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. Go. 5 seconds. Time's up. No more thinking. Yeah. If you had some in the first place, stop at this juncture. Again, our negative statement made by the athlete. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. Team goes first. Andy.
I can do this.
Okay. I can do this as a response. Judge will have his computer work there and get the scoring. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. Response from team 2. Put it behind yourself. Official team 1.
Team 1, 7.
7. Better than the last one? What did you like about
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, they were keeping it positive. You could kind of say that about like a lot of the situations and stuff. And once again, they seemed pretty sincere, and I'm pretty sure that they would say something like that.
it? Okay, good. How about team 2? What did you give them as a score?
Team 2, I also gave them a 7.
Okay, gave them a 7.
Right, but I did like, you know, putting it behind you, going on. That was nice.
Okay, good. We'll do one more to kind of see, so we have three tries here.
Okay.
Here's one where we have a bad word, XXX. So that's the first thing the person says. XXX, it's an easy skill. It's an easy skill. Go, reframe it. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay, the team that's behind, we'll let them have the option of going first. Blank, it's an easy skill.
I've done this plenty of times before.
Okay, I've done this plenty of times before, I can do it again. Official score. Blank, it's an easy skill.
Ours actually gave the same thing. He said, I've done this before. Wait, what was it?
Yeah, I've done this so I can do it again.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let's, official judge, team 1.
Team 1, it's a 9.
Wow. Team 2.
Team 2, even though it's kind of the same, I saw you kind of freak out a little bit right there on them. 8, just because I'm a hard judge, I guess.
Okay. So we'll do our official calculations here. 8, 8, and 7. 23 divided by 3 is 7 point something. 2, 5. Okay, 9 and 7, 16, and 5 is 21, 7, 0. So team 2 is in the lead, but we have a second part to this before they celebrate. Okay, so everybody kind of go back and sit down. All right, what we're going to do, however, is team 1 is behind. Who was on team 1? Okay, Andy, you're going to come up and you're going to be a judge with me this time, but sit there for now. So we're going to have a substitution. Okay, and what we're going to do this time, it's one thing talking about, you know, reframing what's going on in your head, negative statements to positive. Sometimes we can hear people say them, you know, they say them out loud. Other times it's just going on inside. But part of being confident in other things is not just what you say, it's how you carry yourself, how you act. So we're just going to put one more or two more little tries onto this little game. And this time you're going to be in a group of 2. And I'm going to have the team 1 and team 2, the 2 groups. I'm going to give you a situation, and you're going to need to, like, act or role play it. And the first situation I'm going to give you when you're in that team is somebody's in a big game. You know, they miss, in basketball, they miss a front end of a one-on-one. They could have tied the game up. In tennis, they double fault. They fault start in another sport. You know, any of those kind of situations. An important thing, they mess up. And what do they, and they don't immediately have to perform right after that, and they're mad. So think of the biggest loser that you ever met. That a person that's out of control in that situation. I don't mean loser in terms of performance, but loses it mentally. What do they look like? How do they act on the court or wherever it might be? And that your job is going to be is to act that person out. I'll give you about a minute to plan, and then Andy's going to judge the quality of that. Okay, so the first one, a big mistake, the person's really frustrated and they lose it mentally, and one person from the team is going to act out what it looks like. And we're going to judge on whether it's realistic and that type of thing. Who went first last time, one or two? One. So team two goes first this time. So give us a little scenario of the situation.
I just missed 2 free throws at the end of a very close game, so there's still 2 minutes left.
Okay, he's kind of missed 2 critical free throws at the end of a game. Judge ready? Okay. Okay, good. Our judge will do his score, but he's going to keep it confidential till the end. Again, 1 to 10, with 10 being higher. Team 2. Oh, excuse me, team 1. Excuse me, team 1. Okay, team 1. What's the scenario?
Scenario is in a 4x1 relay in track, really bad handoff.
Band handoff.
Handoff to the anchor.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm the guy who did it.
Okay, you're the guy who did it.
That's right!
Okay. Now our scores. For the first team, the basketball missed a free throw. Mickey did that, and what do we give a score for Mickey?
I think Mickey is 7.
Okay. And how come you gave him a 7?
I think 7's a pretty good score, and I mean, it wasn't particularly enthusiastic, but it wasn't really bad either.
Okay.
7's.
Do you think it was pretty typical?
Yeah.
Kind of typical thing you might get. Okay, so Mickey, your team number is 2. So we get a 7 there. And let's see, so we got our averages. And how about for this team, the track scenario?
I gave the track scenario an 8. I felt like it was, you had the emotion right at the beginning, and like the pacing around, like he was really feeling the emotions. That's pretty typical, I think.
Okay, so he showed the emotions, he said something, and that type of thing. Okay. Got one more we're going to try here, and this is actually much more important. Those were examples, they were kind of fun to do, and we've all seen some people get out of control and kind of lose it. In basketball, a lot of times you'll see they'll come down to the other end and get in a dumb foul. You know, track, you know, they bring everybody else in the team down, they can't rerun it, or their next event in the meet, they don't do well. We've all seen that scenario. Now, put yourself in the same scenario, and I want you to respond. Act out, pick the person to act out, to respond as you would think that mentally tough athlete we're talking about would respond. Now be realistic. Would they show emotion? How would they handle it? But if they're together, that mentally tough athlete, that what it takes to be great, that person, how they would handle it in that situation. Okay, does everybody understand the task?
Yep.
Okay, about a minute to do it. So break up and go ahead. Set. Okay, first team, the team that didn't go first last time would be this team. Team 1.
Same scene.
Same scene. Okay, so repeat. That was track and field.
Yeah.
There was a bad exchange. It's after lost the race. Okay.
All right, just gotta shake it off. Got plenty more meat. Just eat breath. All right, let's still win this. You got it? You good? All right.
Good. Great. Okay, we're going to score it and make a couple mental notes so we can give them some feedback. Next team. missed the free throws, but there's still time left in the game.
Shake it off. Shake it off. Here we go. You do it. Just get the ball back. Come on.
Okay, good. Score? Okay, Andy, for our track team, you gave them a score of what?
I gave him a 9.
Okay. Why did you give them a 9?
Because I think they really made an effort to refocus after and like give something, we can still win the race. And they turned around to control themselves.
Okay, so they kind of she dealt with it and released some of that and then turned it around. Okay, how about our other team?
I gave them an 8.
Okay.
It was good also. They also turned it around and, just said, let's try to get the ball back, try to turn it around, and dealt with what's happened and put it in the past.
Okay, so they did both of these were very good, but they tried to get back in a positive reframe. Probably a little higher number for this one, I think, because they did something to release the negative stuff. And you kind of went right into the positive scenario, at least according to the world's expert judge on this. And we know he always plays with complete composure, and we'll never see him have a problem again. Okay, everybody bring it back in. That was great. So Team 2 won the first round, Team 1 won the second round. So everybody's a winner here. Okay, just to kind of sum up here, that was kind of a fun activity. We get to role play and do some things, but let's think about what's really important behind it. How many times have you been in a situation where it's like your head goes in the toilet? It's stinking there. I mean, it's no good. You've played poorly. You're just not with it that day. You all wrote on cards. You wrote some great real-world scenarios. I suck. Here we go again. I can't believe I'm doing this. Every great athlete gets there. How can we handle it? One, we can lose it, like your first scenario at the end. Or you might, and this is important, you might be able to have to release it a little. Sometimes we have emotions in sport. That's why we like it. Sometimes you do need to get ticked off. However, you need to get rid of that maybe in a socially appropriate way. Take a deep breath, that type of thing. And then we go back to our first exercise. How do we reframe? Come up with a more positive state of mind. Those negative thoughts, we make them more positive but realistic. You're not going to go, oh, well, it's no problem, it's unimportant. I dropped the baton, I'm embarrassed, I'm mad at myself, I missed the free throw. Yet you don't have to go all the way down in the toilet again and be real negative. You try to work out of that, be productive, stay positive. That's what I want you to take home from this exercise. Now, 5 weeks from now, in the middle of the season, when you make a mistake, I want you to remember this, because right now it's easy. There's no pressure, there's no emotion. When the gym here is filled, it's going to be different. So make a mental note in practice. When you get frustrated, work on turning it around. You have to work on this stuff. You have to practice it, just like you do your physical skills. Because when you get in the heat of competition, you want it to almost be like turning the light switch on. And you're going to go to the positive, productive channel and not more of a negative one. Questions? Okay, we've been working on a lot of the skills that you told me were important to be really good at sports. In this session today, I want to focus on a couple skills that we can use to develop some of these attributes. In particular, we identified dealing with pressure, and we'll see how a lot of these kind of come together. Dealing with pressure, well, usually you focus to deal with pressure, and that ties to mental toughness and sometimes mental preparation. And one of the skills I want to talk now is really an important one, but it's really easy. It's almost too easy. And it's called centered breathing. And most times when I talk to athletes about centered breathing, it's kind of funny because they go, oh, the guy's going to teach us how to breathe. We all know how to breathe or we wouldn't be here. But what happens is, to me, centered breathing is critical in sport because when we get stressed, if you just think about it a minute, when you get stressed, what happens to your mind? When you get real pressure, what happens in your mind sometimes to your thoughts? Yeah, your thoughts speed up. All right. Sometimes when you get stressed physically, what happens to you?
My body kind of really tightens up.
Yeah, your body kind of tightens up. You get a tension. so your mind speeds up sometimes, or it goes to a place you don't want it to be, to a negative kind of channel, and you either tense up or sometimes you just react without thinking, which are, when you think about sports, what do we want to perform well? I want my body following directions, in control, working when I want it to. You know, very tense at 1 minute, relaxed at the next, but in order. And I want my mind, when I'm playing really well, I'm on automatic pilot. My mind's just kind of one with the sport, that type of thing. Centering can help you achieve those things, all right? So centering to me is similar to like when you write at school, we have periods and commas. If not, you just have one big run-on paragraph, which, you know, just blows your mind. So we have to put some stopping points in. Centering is similar to me what we do in sport. When you're getting stressed and your mind's speeding up, if we can just take a minute to take a deep breath, to slow down and get refocused, and then have some of those productive thoughts we talked about. So that's all centering is. It's kind of like a comma for an athlete that kind of slows us down. It doesn't stop the game. And what's really important, I'm going to come back, it has to be integrated into the athletic arena. I mean, you just can't do it at home. I mean, that's real nice. You might feel good at home, but, you know, in the middle of the game is when you need it, or the contest. Now, the way we're going to do centered breathing, I'm just going to have you stand up right where you are. And what I'm going to have you do is just get in a good athletic stance, which means if you jump up and land, you're probably in one. Your feet are probably shoulder width apart. Adjust it a little bit for, you know, personal preference, 1 foot ahead of the other, but a pretty good athletic stance. All we're going to do when we center breathe, it's a slow, deep belly breath. All right? It was popularized by quite a well-known sports psychologist, Bob Niederfer, who studied a lot of Eastern cultures. And what you do is you inhale through the nose, your stomach will expand. So you inhale, and not a big chest breath, but your stomach expands. And then you exhale through the mouth and think easy. The key is it wants to be slow. What a lot of athletes do is this. Okay, I've centered. Well, that really doesn't slow us down enough if we're really stressing, right? Versus I inhale through the nose, my stomach expands, I exhale and think easy. And I can usually, when I do it, I feel my shoulders kind of drop a little, and you'll feel like some tingle. So we're all going to kind of do that together here. And I'll kind of just talk us through it. Okay, inhale through the nose, stomach expands, think of the center of your body. Exhale through your mouth, think easy, feel some tingle, your shoulders drop. Okay, good. Once more, inhale through the nose. Stomach expands. Exhale. Think easy. Okay, great. Hold up a second. What did it feel like when you did that? Okay, it felt a little relaxing. Not probably totally relaxed, but a little relaxing. Okay, what did you think about when you did that? Not a trick question. You may not think of anything, or I think about the center of my body, because that's what you told me to think about. Inhale, think of the center. If you're thinking about the center of your body, that means you're probably not worried about what's going on about you. It kind of focuses you. So it does something physically, relaxes us, and gives us something to think of. All right, so just again, and I'm going to have you move a little here. Just jump up, kind of land, and I'm going to say, okay, center. Inhale, center, on your own. Okay, good. Now, I don't want to make this too artificial, but in sports, you know, we don't go, can we have the lights out in the arena? Turn around, inhale, stomach expands. You have to do it a little bit when you move. So what I'm going to have you do at home is work on this, okay? Work a little bit, do it just easy, sitting in a chair or whatever, but then try it when you're doing sports. Not in the heat of a competition right away, but like run a little, take a deep breath, center. Okay, kind of get focused, that type of thing. Okay, once more, center. Good. Good. I'm going to do once more. I'm going to have you center. Then I'm going to say focus. I kind of want to get you in that good athletic stance. Okay, so you're learning how to switch here. Center. Focus. Okay, everybody got it down? Any questions? Okay. None? Okay, good. Now another thing to think about centering, sometimes you can have a seat back down. We've done a... The other thing you can do when you think about centering sometimes is Another way I think about it, besides a breathing technique you can use to kind of shift gears, is a lot of times when things go wrong in sports. I kind of said that to you in one of the earlier sessions, one of the earlier exercises we did. Stinking thinking happens, some people have called it. You know, it's not a pretty sight, but I think of a toilet bowl when people aren't flushing. Okay, it's kind of funny thinking about it, but you'll remember it. If we all go into our home and we had a roommate who didn't flush, we wouldn't like the roommate, we'd probably move out. But what happens in sport when you get down on yourself? You beat yourself up psychologically sometimes. It's like you're going in the bathroom and you're not flushing. Okay, it's not a pretty thought, but my hunch is when you're really struggling, sport like golf, other kind of sports, when you're really negative, sometimes you got to release it. A great way to think of a centering, besides what I told you about before, is sometimes I work with athletes, we came up with this, a flush breath. Sometimes I got to just flush all the bad stuff out. An example, maybe I don't have the perfect coach for me, but the coach is knowledgeable, and they always put one of those remarks in that bothers me, and maybe after the coach is done, that remark is staying with me and then it interferes. I take a flush breath. I flush the crap out, and then I focus on something. A good way to remember this, I'm going to give everybody one of these when you leave today, but I have my famous toilet keychain that you can put on your bag or your backpack. So what do? Okay, when you're getting frustrated, nobody needs to know you're doing this. We're not going to have toilets all over. You can keep it inside your bag. Flush it out. Okay, now I do this because it's dumb and you'll remember it. You won't remember anything else from the workshop, but you'll remember Dan's toilet. Okay? But what the most important thing that I want you to remember is that when you're playing sports at the level you're trying to do, to be good takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of failure built in. And sometimes you need to take some good flushes. And if you can teach yourself and discipline yourself to do those flushes at appropriate times, you're going to be better. Okay. So, remember, sometimes you need a good flush. All right. Final exercise I want to do with you ties to, remember last time we did the flushing and the thought stopping, and you take that deep breath? Well, one of the problems is if things are going bad and you're frustrated, the centering physically relaxes me. I stop the thought a minute, but stopping thoughts isn't always enough. Because I once worked with a wrestler in the Olympics, and he was up all night stopping bad thoughts. He was really good at stopping them. He just had to do it all night. Because he forgot, remember our reframing exercise? You stop the bad thoughts, and then you got to put a better thought in. So sometimes what we can do is there's a technique which we call thought reframing. Now, if you think of a situation where you have negative thoughts, maybe it's passing the baton in the relay and it dropped, or maybe it's running hills if you're a runner, or maybe it's doing a part of your sport you don't like, the sprints at the end in basketball, or there's just something you don't like, or maybe it's something technical in golf. You love driving, but you hate the short irons. And you constantly get negative thoughts about that. Think of a couple scenarios in your sport, or one for you, that's just negative for you, where you get negative thoughts. And then for me, think of a couple self-statements you make that are negative associated with it. So just take about 10 seconds to do that. Think for you a situation that, boy, when you hear it, you just go negative. And I'll ask for a couple examples. Right, who's got a situation that they find really negative just thinking about for their sport? Yes. Heading the ball in soccer. Why is it negative for you?
Because at one point in my life, someone made fun of it, and since then I haven't been able to do it right.
Okay, really good. I mean, so when she was a young girl, she headed and somebody laughed at her and made fun, which is inappropriate, but it's been conditioned kind of negative with it. Now, what kind of, if we're going to do a soccer drill with heading today, what kind of thoughts go through your head when I say, okay, line up and let's do the drill?
I'm fine in practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pressure going on, but in games, as soon as for a halfback to be able to head.
Okay.
As soon as the goalie is holding the ball in her hands to punt it, everything is going through my head, trying to get lined up, trying to get ready to.
What specifically do you say to yourself? Do you say anything negative?
Oh yeah.
Like what? You can exit. Okay. Oh darn.
Oh, darn.
Gee Whittaker's crap. Okay, so she says some of those words.
And that, you're going to screw it up again.
Okay, I'm going to screw it up again.
And I think back on when, people made fun and it's a vicious cycle.
Okay, so then you have images and those feelings of these not so nice people when you were a kid.
Right.
Okay, let's hold that one a minute because that's a great one. We'll come back. Who else had an example of one? Anybody over here? Aaron?
During practices in track, when we have to do 400 sprints, because that's actually a little bit too far for me for sprinting. That's kind of like distancing, and I just hate it. So when coach says we have to do it, like we'll have to do half a dozen or whatever, I'm just like I can't. Just right off the bat, I can't. I'm like I know my legs aren't going to make it. I gotta try to talk myself through it, but I can't because after 2 of them, I want to quit.
Okay. So a hard part for most sports, there's usually some hard physical conditioning aspect that some of us just don't like. All right, and as soon as that comes up, oh, I can't, and then you get those emotional feelings like almost the heading like you did, except it's conditioning, and then all of a sudden you've worked yourself up into a negative. Well, the secret of this little technique I want to tell you is the thought stopping and switching, is you need to identify situations where you get negative easy in. And Kirsten and I said, what specifically were you saying? I pushed her to tell me the specific things that bothered her. She needs to recognize those as soon as they start. Because if we let it go, if we let you go and you get all negative, that snowball's going down the hill and nobody can stop it. So we want to catch it before it starts. The first kind of negative thing you do. As soon as that starts, I'm going to have you imagine something to you that signals stop. For me, it's a stop sign, because I'm not real creative. It's just see it and stop. Okay? For other people, I've had still pause on the video. For other people, I've had their mother yelling stop. It varies. There's no one here. But for you, what word, what image, what color, what sound, what makes you almost stop dead in your tracks? Think a minute and think of a stop signal for you. Okay, just take a second here and think of what would signal stop for you. And maybe it's not the perfect one, but just come up with something that would probably work if you don't have a perfect one. Andy, what did you come up with for your stop signal?
Hey! Really, really.
Okay.
Stop everybody in the tracks.
Okay, so in high school he had a coach who was also a priest, and he'd yell, hey, and he'd stop. Okay, so that for him is, none of us, others of us would come up with that one. But that's perfect for him because he remembers it. Okay, Mickey, what did you have? Okay, a whistle. Just a coach blowing a whistle, somebody blowing a whistle. Aaron, how about you?
Somebody just smacking their hands together and acting out like that.
Okay, so a physical. Okay, simple, color red. Last but not least. A railroad crossing, because you don't want the train to squish you. Okay? So everybody here's got a unique one. That's okay. We don't have to publicly tell anybody these. It's personal to us. The secret is, when you have that tough workout, as soon as that negative statement comes, you want to think of your clap and this. Or you want to think of the color red, whatever it is in yours. Now, the problem with that is, it's like the athlete I told you about that stopped the negative thoughts all night. Because you then need positive, more positive, productive thoughts to be put in place of that. Right? And we've done a reframing exercise, so I know you guys have that skill now. But if we go back to your heading example, what was one of your negative statements you make to yourself? Oh crap. Okay? Oh crap. And your stop signal is? The railroad crossing. Now what could we put in place of it for her? Something that's realistic. We'll work as a group here that's more productive as opposed to oh crap. She stops oh crap. Now what can she do? Okay? She could do something in the preparation. Stop it. Focus, focus, focus. All right? So maybe focus is not super positive, but it's better than oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. She's going focus, watch the ball, whatever. So we put something more positive. What was your other one?
That I did
The negative statement. There was, oh crap, and I thought there was another one.
Don't do it again.
Okay, don't do it again. Okay, how can we reframe that? Help her out. How can we reframe that? She stopped it with a railroad crossing, but it's going to come back if she doesn't have something more productive. We've got focus, focus, focus.
Let's do something else.
Okay, what's that?
Let's do something else.
Okay, that could be, let's just do something else, except I'm her coach and I'm making her do this. So I've got her backed into a corner. Okay, she might visualize Mia Hamm, great woman soccer player, head and balls, just great technique, visualizing the emotion of it or visualizing herself. So it doesn't have to be a word, so, oh crap, stop, and then she pictures herself with great heads, really distributing the ball well to other players on her team. Now, it's a little technique, but it really can help you. The key is you think of a negative situation you find yourself, you have to know the specific thoughts and feelings that kind of attack you, and then you call up your stop sign. Don't forget the last part, because it probably won't work. I mean, you'll stop it, but then you just keep going. Then you go and put it together. Now, if we put all this together with what we've done before, sometimes you're working and you need to take a good flush. You're all upset, and now you have to do it at the appropriate time in practice. Sometimes it's the middle of competition, you can't, but you go out of bounds. You take the deep breath, you catch the negative thought, you see the railroad crossing, and then you have the positive one. All these mental skills, it's real nice to come in, we have a workshop, you get to sit around, you don't have to run today or whatever. It's no good unless you incorporate them into practice. Your custom cars. We've got to tune you. We've got to go out and make adjustments on the track. All right? So we can do all this mental stuff in here, and it's good, but you've got to be working on it in game situations, on the practice field, and you're going to make some mistakes. You may go out, and it sounds to me like her heading is no easy task. It's scary for her. So she'll go out and maybe center and try to thought stop, and it's not going to make her forget all about it, but it maybe help her get through it a little easier. And then with time, she can maybe turn it around. All right, but we don't do miracles. We give you skills, just like the weight room. You don't go in one day and come out really strong. You go in consistent, systematic, work at it. Same with all our mental skills. So let's work on those. We'll consistently work on them in practice, and we'll make some improvements, and we'll come back and score ourselves on our profiles later. Great. Thanks for all your attention.
Well, that was great stuff, Dan. I was wondering, what kind of preparation would go into setting yourself up for doing something like this?
Well, I think the key is to make sure you have your materials laid out and organized. The drills are in a pretty straightforward, fairly simple format to execute. But for me anyways, I always look at my directions, make sure I have my directions down. Any notes I need are right there for me, and then basically just follow the plan.
Yeah. Now, this was a relatively small group. Now, how would it differ if you had individuals or if you had larger groups?
Most of these we've done with teams, and we've done them with teams 35. You have to work a little harder to get everybody involved.
Sure.
And you might have to call some athletes by names if you're lucky enough to know their names. But it works. And the team set, like when you divide them into teams for some of the activities, you may not have everybody involved. You may have a good number serving as an audience. And if you do a whole series of drills, across all the drills, you try to involve everyone. But in any one drill, the numbers are too big.
Sure. And I noticed a couple of times within the demonstration, you would suggest that unless you practice these over and over again, the person won't internalize them and they won't use them. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, to me, the drills that were demonstrated are the education phase, the teaching phase. We present the big picture. Now the athlete knows what to do. Right. But now they have to integrate these into practice and almost have them become second natured. So it's really important that we make the transfer from this workshop setting to practice situations and ultimately to performance situations.
Now, as a former basketball player, like how would I use this in basketball?
There's a couple ways you could use skills like thought stopping and centering, and they could be easily used in basketball.
Right. And what would that look like? Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, we can show you here.
Okay.
Okay, Mickey, remember when in the workshop we talked about centering and flushing and refocusing. Now what we're going to do is I know you've worked on those, and we've worked on them off the court. Now we're going to incorporate it into your actual sport routine, what you do. We're going to start, I'm just going to have you take some free throws. If you miss a free throw, I want you to maybe step off the foul line, take a centered, slow, deep breath, kind of refocus, and then retake the shot. Okay? Let's go. I'll rebound for you. Okay, great. What did it feel like there when you took the deep breath?
Just kind of relaxing and
Okay.
kind of made an effort to focus a little better.
Okay. You think that's doable in a game situation? Okay. Good. Let's start working on that so we don't have to think about it. So if you miss a shot, you just step back, kind of do it, and I'll talk to coach. We'll have you incorporate in that in practice.
All right.
Now the other thing I want you to do is, we're going to have to simulate this a little bit, but you go down here, you miss a jump shot. You're running back down to defend this basket. Another place you could do it, okay, you missed the shot. What happens sometimes when you miss a critical shot? What are you thinking?
I'll get down.
Okay? Okay, you get down on yourself. You've told me that. So I want you to miss that, pretend you missed a shot. I'm going to have you run back down court, assume a good defensive position. And you've told me that sometimes what you do is you try to make up for it and get a silly foul.
Sure.
So I'm going to have you run back down, get in a good defensive position, and I want you to take a centered breath that doesn't interfere with you playing, defense and waiting for the other team to get back down, because we got to be able to do this quick.
Yep.
Okay, so let's try that. So you missed down here, and you're going to run back on defense. So just get about half court, pretend you missed. Okay, that's pretty good, and then just kind of sprint down. Okay, missed the shot. D, center. Okay, is that doable?
Yeah.
Let's do one more. Again, the key is that centered breath has to be slow, but it also has to be doable so they don't get a cheap basket by it. Okay, let's try it once more. Missed the shot, sprint, set up, center, good defense. Okay. Now, last one we'll do, so we can work on that. So I want you focusing on that when you practice. I talked to coach, he agrees. Okay, the last one we're going to do is a little drill. Like centering's real easy when, there's not much around. I'm going to have you do that fitness drill we talked about. And then I'm going to have you take a foul shot. And I'm going to line up here facing you. And when I point, move back, forward, sidestep left, sidestep right. We'll go about a minute. Okay, then I'm going to ask you to go to the line, take a center, and shoot. Ready? Hard. Okay, go to the line. Get composed, deep centered breath. Great. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to do more of those drills, but the key is that shows you how you can use centering to kind of just get composed, because it's easy to do when you're not tired. Did you get a little tired of that? I mean, we didn't go as hard as usual, but...
Definitely.
Okay. Tell me what 3 things you're going to work on with centering and practice then that we just talked about. When are you going to use it?
When am I going to use it? In practice, in games.
Okay, but how? Free throws, 1?
Coming back on defense.
Coming back on defense, 2? Okay, when you're tired in fitness, then you got to suck it up. 3. You can do that. Good. Let's go. Play.
Well, that was great, Dan. Now, I was wondering, are these skills enough just by themselves, or do you need other things, or what else does the athlete need to do?
And I'm really glad you asked that, because we're really excited about these drills, and I think it gives us a tool in our toolbox of mental training consultants where we can really help athletes. But alone, they're not enough. They're a great tool. They need to fit in a broader context. For example, we need to be able to read the athlete's psychological state. We need trust and credibility and be able to communicate with that athlete and follow through and provide feedback. So the drills, to me, are an important part of a larger framework, and we always need to be working within that larger framework, for example, relationships, those type of things.
Sure. I noticed often during the workshop you were trying to make it humorous, you were engaged in it, you were trying to get people involved. Are those the ways that you build rapport, if you will, with your audience?
Yeah, I think for me it is. I think, one, I think it really helps. I really like doing this stuff. I love athletes. I like being with athletes, so it comes natural. But if you're going to work this hard, we might as well have some fun. And we've also learned from the research that they enjoy it more if they're engaged. So I think, you know, most people play sports because it's fun. The other is hard work. But I try to think of what it's like if someone's a coach. You try to have a good time. There's a time for serious business. So to me, that relationship building is a full-time occupation. And we need it in our profession just like coaches do.
Right. And what suggestions would you have for somebody considering integrating this kind of stuff into their regular practice?
Well, first, as a consultant, if you're integrating it, I think the drills have provided you a nice template, a safe template. If you haven't done it before, you could start with those and follow it. But what you'll do is then you change. You come up with new drills. To me, it's also a stimulus as well as a template to come up with your own drills, modify them, add new ones, and maybe get all of us thinking about how can I present the information differently than just a straight lecture. And there is a role for straight lecture. You'll notice in some of the drills, a point would come up and I'd give a 30-second little mini lecture, better informing the athlete. But what can we do to make it more exciting, more involved? You saw how excited they got when they threw things around, when they got empowered to give questions. I think we need to build on that and tie it with our more traditional techniques and extend it and always be thinking about ways, how can I do this different? How can I do it better?
Right. I noticed that you try to get them to individualize that. Is that very important with these kind of skills?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really important. We know they need most of these skills. And when they use the skill, they've got to customize it to them, and everybody does it a little different. For example, we talked about mental preparation. Some people need to go off by themselves and almost be distracted, and others need to be doing imagery and thinking about it over and over. So you always have to individualize.
Right. And is there anything else that you think that the viewers should know?
Probably the only thing on that part where I think it's important, we teach these, we first teach them in a controllable setting, they're not in the athletic domain, and then we need to transfer it. But if you're not familiar with the sport that you're transferring it to, involve the coach. Right. Ask the coach and athlete, will this work? For example, I've had downhill skiers center at 70 miles an hour. I'm not a downhill skier that goes that fast, so I asked the coach if it worked. When would it work? How could we integrate it? Because you can have some very serious consequences, so you want to use that expertise available to you, and they'll give you some tips to be even more effective. And I guess the final point I'd make is that it's fun working with these athletes and see them take these skills and utilize them and get better. And at the end of the day, you know, whether they're an Olympic champion or just a local little leaguer, to have them enjoy sport more and have the satisfaction of moving, I think that's one of the greatest things we can do so people really enjoy the ride. So that's how we want to use these drills.
Great. Well, great, Dan. It was a wonderful day.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks.
Great.